Hi, I'm Daniel, I'm a sleep physician, and if you have insomnia, this channel is for you. Binge sleeping, what's that? And is that bad for you? You may have heard about something called binge sleeping, and typically, there are headlines every couple of months or so where you read that binge sleeping is not good for you, you should totally avoid that. And that makes a lot of people think, what's that? Binge sleeping? I wish I could do that because I have trouble sleeping. Well, it is true that binge sleeping should be avoided, and I'll go over why. But before that, what is binge sleeping? Really, binge sleeping is just the same thing as catch-up sleep, meaning you spend a couple of days where you sleep less than you should, and then another few days where you sleep more, not necessarily more than you should, but more than those short days. And typically what happens is people work a lot during the week and get very little sleep and then catch up on the weekends, and so they binge sleep on the weekends. And two things I want to clarify here are, one, sometimes I get a question in clinic about whether you can sleep too much. And the short answer is no, you cannot. You have a kind of genetic potential. You can sleep up to this many hours, but you just cannot sleep more than that. There's just no way you can voluntarily decide how much you sleep. Keeping that in mind, if somebody tells me, I have a hard time, I think I sleep too much, meaning they sleep, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours and they still don't feel rested, they still feel like they need more sleep, then that's a concern. That tells me that something needs to be worked up, So you cannot sleep more than your genetic potential, but if you feel like you always need more and more and more sleep, if you need to sleep more and more, that's a cause for concern, something to be that needs to be looked into. Now, of course, this channel is about insomnia, people that, like yourself perhaps, have a hard time sleeping, you're not getting enough sleep and you're not sleeping well. So where does all this apply to you? Well, oftentimes people with insomnia develop this kind of like Sheriff of Nottingham's pattern of sleeping, whereby you take from the poor and give to the rich. In other words, you go through many nights where you have trouble sleeping. You're only getting 3 or 4 or 4.5 hours of sleep, but then you kind of like crash, you collapse and you sleep 8 or 9 hours 2 days straight, and that's not a healthy pattern. It's better, of course, if you can sleep about the same amount of time throughout from day to day. And how can you achieve that? Well, you have to apply like a Robin Hood tactic. You have to limit the time you sleep a little bit on those days when you catch up, the long days, and thereby kind of even things out so you sleep a little bit more overall. Not easy to do by any means, but I think that is the best strategy if you are binge sleeping or catch up sleeping. I hope this was helpful. I am, by the way, in the basement again. We have a guest, so I've moved down from my office. The podcast got approved by Apple, which is super exciting. So if you happen to listen to podcasts through the podcast store, it's there, Insomnia Insight with Daniel Erichsen. And I just ordered a new microphone, so hopefully sound will be much better in the very near future. As always, if you have comments, questions, or anything, please post them here or email me at insomniainsight@gmail.com or leave me a voicemail at 503-489-4802, and I'll be more than happy to answer you, of course. Until next time, take it easy. Hope to see you back here very soon.